Definition: the schizophrenic disorders are characterized in general by fundamental and characteristic distortions of thinking and perception, and by inappropriate or blunted affect. Clear consciousness and intellectual capacity are usually maintained, although certain cognitive deficits may evolve in the course of time. Coming to the historical background, several psychiatrists and psychologists have made contributions during ancient times. Among them, Benedict Morrell introduced the term dementia precox, where demens means loss of mind and precox means early premature. Emil Kraepelin translated dementia precox into demens precox into dementia precox. This term that emphasized the change in cognition and early onset and focused on the subtypes of schizophrenia. Eugene Bleuler and Kurt Nieder were the main persons or the main psychologists who were concerned with who were mainly involved in the development or historical part of this schizophrenia. Eugene Bleuler coined the term schizophrenia to express the presence of schisms among the thought, emotion, and behavior. The word schism means break. So there's a break in among the patients or persons' thought, emotion, and behavior. And he also uh, gave 4 A's which are very prominent in schizophrenia, that is associations, affect, autism, and ambivalence. Next was Kurt Nieder, who emphasized the role of psychotic symptoms as hallucinations, delusions, and contributed description of first-rank symptoms. These first-rank symptoms are: number one is the audible thoughts, voices arguing, voices commenting on one's actions, thought withdrawal, thought insertion, thought broadcasting, made feelings, made impulses, made volitional acts, delusional perception, and somatic passivity. As undergraduate students, when you appear for your PG entrance, these are very common bits which you usually you'll be getting in the examination. Coming to prevalence and course of schizophrenia, about 1% of the people in their lifetime have schizophrenia. Onset occurs in late adolescence or early adulthood. Onset may be abrupt or insidious, but is marked by prodromal signs. 20% have positive outcome with a single episode. 50% have a moderate outcome with 1 or 2 episodes and remission in between these. 30% have a poor outcome with multiple episodes and progressive deterioration despite treatment with medication. 30% attempt suicide and 5 to 10% commit suicide. This is the ICD-10 classification of schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. For those of you who may not be aware of what is ICD, ICD is International Classification of Disorders, which is in which F stands for the mental illnesses. It is an alphanumeric classification. So F20 to F29 stands for the schizophrenic disorders. So F20 is schizophrenia, F21 is schizotypal disorder, F22 is persistent delusional disorder, F23 acute and transient psychotic disorder, F24 induced delusional disorder, F25 schizoaffective disorder, F28 other non-organic psychotic disorders, F25, F29 unspecified non-organic psychotic disorders. Causes of schizophrenia, the etiology of schizophrenia rather. The most important is the dopamine hypothesis. Drugs that increase dopamine, that is dopamine agonists, or drugs that decrease dopamine antagonists. So drugs that increase dopamine have been seen to result in schizophrenia-like behavior, whereas the drugs that decrease dopamine antagonists reduce schizophrenia-like behavior. Current theories emphasize that many neurotransmitters, serotonin, GABA, glutamate also have a role. Now these are the dopamine pathways of our brain. The main pathways are the nigrostriatal dopamine pathway, mesolimbic dopamine pathway, mesocortical dopamine pathway, tuberoinfundibular dopamine pathway. Among these, the mesolimbic dopamine pathway and the mesocortical dopamine pathway, that is the second and third pathways, are very important in the psychopathology of schizophrenia. Mesolimbic dopamine pathway is concerned with the positive symptoms, whereas the mesocortical dopamine pathway concerned with the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. Then, other than the dopamine hypothesis, the next etiological feature, etiology is the psychological and the social influences, out of which the main is the role of stress. There is a hypothesis known as stress vulnerability hypothesis. Like, if a person is born with genetic predisposition, if he has acute stress later in his life, he may activate the underlying vulnerability and develop the disorder at any part of his life. Also, stress may increase risk of relapse. Then family interactions. Families which show ineffective communication play a major role. High expressed emotions associated with relapse. Role of psychological factors exert a minimal effect in producing schizophrenia. Next is the neurodevelopmental model. It proposes that in schizophrenia, there is a presence of silent lesion in the brain in the parts important for the development of integration, which is caused by different factors during early development of the brain in prenatal or early postnatal period of life. It does not interfere too much with the basic brain functioning in early years, but expresses itself in the time when the subject is stressed by demands of growing needs for integration during formative years in adolescence and young adulthood. Now, these are the susceptibility genes of schizophrenia, as you can see in this box, the disc binding, neuroglin 1, etc. Then coming to the predisposing factors of schizophrenia and the precipitating factors of schizophrenia. The predisposing factors can be both genetic and environmental. Genetic factors, as you can see, if the patient is a monozygotic twin of a schizophrenic patient, he has 40% relative risk of developing schizophrenia. If he is a dizygotic twin of a schizophrenic patient, he has 15% risk of developing schizophrenia. And if he is a child of a schizophrenic patient or a sibling of a schizophrenic patient, he has 10 to 15% risk. So this itself shows the genetic predisposing factor, the genetic risk factors. Then environmental factors like abnormalities in pregnancy and delivery, fetal malnutrition, etc. have only 2 to 3% contribution. Precipitating factor, early cannabis consumption is 2 to 3%, has a relative risk of developing schizophrenia. Then we have the psychoanalytical theories. Sigmund Freud postulated that intrapsychic conflict arising from the early fixations and the ego defect, which may have resulted from poor early object relations, fuel the psychotic symptoms. Paul Federn hypothesized that the defect in ego functions permits intense hostility and aggression to distort the mother-infant relationship, which leads to eventual personality disorganization and vulnerability to stress. Harry Stack Sullivan viewed schizophrenia as a disturbance in interpersonal relatedness and as an adaptive method used to avoid panic, terror, and disintegration of the sense of self. Coming to the features of schizophrenia. Now, schizophrenia, these are the symptoms of schizophrenia. We have positive symptoms, negative symptoms, cognitive deficits, aggressive symptoms, and disorganization, mood affective symptoms. The positive symptoms are delusions, hallucinations, which are the core features of schizophrenia. As you all know the definition of delusions, delusions are firm, fixed belief held with firm conviction against the person's social and cultural background. All firm, fixed belief. So delusions can be of several types. Most common delusions which we see in schizophrenia are delusion of reference, wherein the person feels that everybody is talking about him or referring about him. Delusion of persecution, where he feels that he may be harmed. Delusion of infidelity, where he has doubts or suspicion on the infidelity about his partner, delusion of being controlled, delusion of being harmed by others. Then there is a delusion that some harm may befall on him. Then there is a fear of being watched by silent cameras, very common. Many patients come to us telling that cameras have been fixed in their rooms, somebody is following them. Then feeling that they have excessive wealth or they are gods or kings. These are all different types of delusion. Then there are some other type of bizarre delusions, what we call as bizarre. Bizarre means something which is not possible. Like some people say that they are controlling the weather, they are controlling the solar systems. Like there was one case where one patient believed that if he walks naked, he can prevent the world from destruction. So you can believe the nature of the delusions. False, firm, fixed belief held with firm conviction. Okay. So these are the different types of delusions. Coming to hallucinations. Hallucination is a false perception. Hallucinations can be auditory and non-auditory. Schizophrenia, mostly we have auditory hallucinations. Non-auditory hallucinations are seen in organicity. Okay. So in hallucinations, we have voices commenting on the patient. Mostly they are derogatory. Then we have voices threatening the patient and voices commanding the patient. Then in early stages of the illness, the patient is scared, finds it very unpleasant, distressing when he hears voices, so he remains aloof. But as the disease progresses, he starts yielding to the voices, starts conversing with the voices, and this is when the people around them observe that the person is talking to himself or muttering to himself or laughing to himself. Sometimes hallucinations can be strong and overpowering, resulting in violent behavior. So this is the positive symptoms, delusions and hallucinations, which are the core symptoms of schizophrenia. Next is the negative symptoms, anhedonia, all are A's, anhedonia, affective flattening, avolition, social withdrawal, alogia. Anhedonia means unable to feel pleasure, affective flattening, no emotions on their expression, avolition, lack of motivation to do any work, social withdrawal, alogia, decreased speech productivity. Then the cognitive deficits are attention, memory, aggressive symptoms and disorganization in speech behavior, mood affective symptoms like depression, anxiety, hostility and suicidality. So all these together, you can see all the arrows are leading to functional impairment at work, school, interpersonal relationships and self-care. So these are the symptoms of or features of schizophrenia. Now these symptoms have been matched with each area in the brain. The positive symptoms are mainly centered around the mesolimbic part of the brain, whereas the negative symptoms are mesocortical and prefrontal cortex, nucleus accumbens and the reward circuit. Affective symptoms, ventromedial prefrontal cortex, cognitive symptoms in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. These are the ICD-10 criteria for schizophrenia. Although no strictly pathognomic symptoms can be identified for practical purposes, it is useful to divide the symptoms into groups that have special importance for the diagnosis and often occur together. See, in psychiatry, we don't have any investigating tools. Our only tool of assessment is mental state examination. We will interview the patient, we will do MSc of the patient, and based on MSc, we will come to the diagnosis, and then we will group the symptoms together. What are the symptoms of the patient, and that is how we will see what are the criteria, and then we will diagnose the patient. Okay. So these are the what we call criteria for schizophrenia. Thought echo, thought insertion or withdrawal, thought broadcasting, delusions of control, influence or passivity, hallucinatory voices giving a running commentary on the patient's behavior or discussing the patient among themselves, persistent delusions of other kinds that are culturally inappropriate and completely impossible, such as religious or political identity, or superhuman powers and abilities. So these are A, B, C, D. Next is from E to I. persistent hallucination in any modality when accompanied either by fleeting or half-formed delusions, breaks or interpolations in the train of thought, catatonic behavior such as excitement, posturing, or waxy flexibility, negative symptoms such as marked apathy, paucity of speech and blunting, or incongruity of emotional responses, a significant and consistent change in the overall quality of some aspects of personal behavior such as loss of interest, aimlessness, idleness, self-absorbed attitude, and social withdrawal. So these are A to I were the criteria in which A to D and then E to I. So the normal requirement for a diagnosis of schizophrenia is a minimum of 1 year clear symptoms belonging to any one of the groups listed as A to D. Symptoms from at least 2 of the groups referred to as E to H, and these symptoms should have been present for at least 1 month or more. If the symptoms conditions meeting such symptomatic requirements but of duration less than 1 month should be diagnosed as acute schizophrenia like psychotic disorder, or what we call as ATP. Symptoms in the above list applies only to diagnosis. Symptom I, that is the last one, applies only for the diagnosis of simple schizophrenia and the duration is for 1 year. So these are the different subtypes of schizophrenia. We'll be seeing different case vignettes of each subtype of schizophrenia: paranoid schizophrenia, hebephrenic schizophrenia, catatonic schizophrenia, undifferentiated schizophrenia, post-schizophrenic depression, residual schizophrenia, simple schizophrenia, other schizophrenia, and schizophrenia unspecified. So these are the subtypes. Like in paranoid schizophrenia, there is preoccupation with one or more delusions or frequent auditory hallucinations. However, cognitive function and affect are relatively well preserved. Whereas in disorganized schizophrenia, it is characterized by disorganized behavior and speech. In catatonia, in catatonic schizophrenia, he has at least 2 of the following features: immobility, excessive or purposeless motor activity, extreme negativism, or peculiarities of voluntary movement. Undifferentiated schizophrenia does not have any of the characteristic of paranoid, disorganized, or catatonic schizophrenia. The last type is residual, in which there is a continued presence of negative symptoms, more commonly known as less pronounced symptoms, and there is absence of delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, and presence of negative or positive symptoms. Okay. See, you can see in this picture, there are two pictures. In the first picture, you see the patient has an artificial eye, and he believed that he had special powers when he removed it from his socket. In the second picture, you can see a person standing in a odd position, rigid, with hands and legs extended, and he's standing like that from a long time. This is known as posturing. It is seen in patients with catatonia. Coming to the course of illness, the course of schizophrenia can be continuous with temporary involvement, episodic with progressive or stable deficit, episodic with incomplete remission. The typical stages of schizophrenia are prodromal stage, wherein just before the onset of illness or almost at the beginning of the illness, the patient starts behaving abnormally. He will have suspicion, he'll start remaining aloof. In the active phase, the patient has florid symptoms like delusions, hallucinations, and in the residual phase, in spite of treatment, there will be some symptoms remaining in the patient. These are the prognostic features: the good prognosis and poor prognosis. Surprisingly, late onset and acute onset have good prognosis, whereas young onset and no precipitating features, they have poor prognosis. Mood disorder symptoms have a good prognosis, whereas a family history of schizophrenia has a bad prognosis. If they have a good support system, they have a family, they are married, then it has a good prognosis. Whereas poor support system has a bad prognosis, negative symptoms had a bad prognosis, many relapses, again a poor prognosis. management of schizophrenia under 4 headings: assessment, biological treatments, psychological treatments, and the social aspects. Assessment is the first is the psychiatric interview, like I already mentioned about the MSc, then other physical examination, biological treatment, the drug treatment, antipsychotics, short-term benzodiazepines, and treatment of comorbid mood symptoms. Psychological treatments, CBT, that is the cognitive behavioral therapy, family therapy, then social aspects or the psychosocial interventions, reduction of high expressed emotions at home, appropriate daytime activities or work adjustments, support with accommodation and finances. This is the classification of antipsychotics. I think I need not read it out. Most of you will be well versed with this. The typical and atypical antipsychotics. The comparison of first and generation antipsychotics, I will not go into the details of it, but the first generation antipsychotics, the typical antipsychotics are example haloperidol, D2 receptor antagonist with high risk of extrapyramidal symptoms, hyperprolactinemia, sedation is high with high risk of sedation, and metabolic side effects are relatively less in the first generation antipsychotics. Whereas in the second generation antipsychotics, they are D2, D4, D5 antagonists with low risks of EPS, but less variable sedation, but high risk of weight gain and metabolic side effects. Among the treatment modalities, ECT is a very commonly used treatment modality, non-pharmacological treatment modality, and it is more useful when catatonia or prominent affective symptoms are present. Then we have psychosocial therapies, that is social skills training, family-oriented therapies, assertive cognitive treatment, group therapies, vocational therapy, and cognitive training. So now we come to the main part of our presentation today. Like you had requested that we want some case vignettes mainly. So this is the first case vignette. So it's a typical case of paranoid schizophrenia. A 35-year-old male was brought to the hospital by family members with complaints of talking on air like he is speaking with someone, staying alone and not interacting with anyone, looking at colleagues and family members and saying that they're trying to harm him and they have arranged cameras to observe him secretly. Sometimes he is outrageously aggressive and destroying articles. He is not accepting food out of suspicion. While speaking with the hospital staff, he even said that he can control the weather. So you can see this is a typical case of paranoid schizophrenia. Complaints of talking on air. That shows that patient has auditory hallucinations and he is responding or conversing with those voices. And staying alone, not interacting with anyone. All these are secondary to the auditory hallucinations. Then you can see he's saying that there is somebody trying to harm him, and they have arranged cameras in his room, and he's also not accepting food. All these are delusion of persecution. Even while speaking to the hospital staff, he said that he can control the weather. That is also a bizarre delusion. So this is a typical case of paranoid schizophrenia, in which in paranoid schizophrenia, positive symptoms are always present. Positive symptoms in this case are delusions, hallucinations, and there are usually no negative symptoms, usually. So here we don't see any what you call anhedonia, affective flattening, that type of symptoms are not present here. Though of course he is remaining aloof, but remaining aloof is secondary to his suspicion. Paranoid schizophrenia is the most common type of schizophrenia with most favorable prognosis. You can see some pictures. Now this is second case. This is a typical case of disorganized schizophrenia, or formerly it was called as hebephrenic schizophrenia. A 20-year-old female was brought by family members with complaints of laughing inappropriately, not interacting with family members, speaking incoherently, responding to questions with unrelated answers, shifting topics frequently, marked lack of self-care since 3 months. On examination, patient was not maintaining eye contact and had blunt facial expression. MSc revealed loosening of association, preservation, and effect was blunted. So this is a case where you can see that the patient is a young onset 20-year-old female. There's absence of any delusions in this case. The patient is not telling that having suspicion, or she's not having any what you call fear that somebody is harming her or following her. So absence of systematized delusions you can see in this case. And there is laughing inappropriately and not taking self-care. These are all features of disorganized schizophrenia. Disorganized schizophrenia usually occurs early by the age of before 25 years of age. Absence of systematized delusions will be there, and there is marked regression to primitive disorganized behavior, inappropriate laughter. You can see the first complaint itself is laughing inappropriately, and personal appearance is disheveled mostly. This disorganized schizophrenia has a very poor prognosis. Coming to case 3, patient AB, a 32-year-old woman, began to lose weight, became careless about her work, which deteriorated in quality and quantity. She believed that other women at her place of employment were circulating slanderous stories concerning her, and complained that a young man employed in the same plant had put his arm around her and insulted her. Her family demanded that the charge be investigated, which showed not only that the charge was without foundation, but also that the man in question had not spoken to her for months. One day she returned home for work, and as she entered the house, she laughed loudly, watched her sister-in-law suspiciously, refused to answer questions, and at the sight of her brother began to cry. She refused to go to bathroom, saying that a man was looking in the windows at her. She ate no food, and the next day she declared that her sisters were bad women, that everyone was talking about her, and someone had been having sexual relations with her, and although she could not see them, he was always around. The patient was admitted to a public psychiatric hospital. As she entered the admitting office, she laughed loudly and repeatedly screamed in a loud tone, "She cannot stay here, she's got to go home." She grimaced, performed various stereotype movements of her hands. When seen on the ward an hour later, she paid no attention to questions, although she talked to herself in a childish tone. She moved about constantly, walked on her toes in a dancing manner, pointed aimlessly about, and put out her tongue and sucked her lips in the manner of an infant. See, you can see these are all childlike behaviors, regressive behaviors. At times she moaned and cried like a child, but shed no tears. As the months passed, she remained silly, childish, preoccupied, and inaccessible, grimacing, gesturing, pointing at objects in a stereotyped way, and usually chattering to herself in a peculiar high-pitched voice, with little of what she said being understood. Her condition continued to deteriorate, she remained unkept, and she presented a picture of extreme introversion and regression, with no interest either in the activities of the institution or in her relatives who visited her. So this case number 3 is actually mainly it has got features of both paranoid schizophrenia and hebephrenic schizophrenia. Though hebephrenia or disorganized schizophrenia starts before 25 years of age, here the late age of onset is in a 32-year-old woman. Initially started with suspicion at her workplace and along with her sister-in-law and her family friends. Later, it was, you can see the other symptoms of hebephrenic schizophrenia could be observed. So it has got both features of paranoid and hebephrenic. If it was only purely paranoid schizophrenia, this prognosis would have been good. It would have improved very well with drug treatment. But since it has got also other features of hebephrenic schizophrenia, here the prognosis is not expected to be good. Case number 4. AC, aged 32 years, was admitted to the hospital. On arrival, he was noted to be asthenic, poorly nourished man with dilated pupils, hyperactive tendon reflexes, and a pulse rate of 120 beats per minute. He showed many mannerisms, laid down on the floor, pulled at his foot, made undirected violent striking movements, struck attendants, grimaced, assumed rigid and strange postures, refused to speak, and appeared to be having auditory hallucinations. When seen later in the day, he was found to be in a stuporous state. His face was without expression. He was mute and rigid, and he paid no attention to those about him or to other questions or to their questions. His eyes were closed, and his eyelids could be separated only with effort. There was no response to pinpricks or other painful stimulus. So you can see the patient is rigid, without expression. He gradually became accessible, and when asked concerning himself, he referred to his stuporous period as a sleep and maintained that he had no recollection of any events occurring during it. He said, I don't know anything. Everything seems to be in dark as far as my mind is concerned. Then I began to see a little light like the shape of a star. Then my head got through the star gradually. I saw more and more light until I saw everything in a perfect form a few days ago. He explained his mutism by saying that he had been afraid he would say the wrong thing and that he didn't know exactly what to talk about. From this obviously inadequate emotional response and his statement that he was a scientist and an inventor of the most extraordinary genius of the 20th century, it was plain that he was still far from well. So you can see in this, it is a case of catatonic type of subtype of schizophrenia. In catatonia, the patient usually assumes rigid postures, makes striking movements, and suddenly he may become stuporous, suddenly there may be extreme excitement. So you see, when the patient was brought to the hospital, he showed mannerisms, he pulled his at his foot, made movements. Later he became silent. Sometimes they may be mute. Sometimes they won't respond to even to painful stimulus. They remain for long hours like that. So this is a case of catatonic schizophrenia. So catatonic schizophrenia, these are the mostly the symptoms of catatonic schizophrenia. There's a marked disturbance in motor function. May involve stupor, negativism, rigidity, excitement, or posturing. The patient will assume odd postures and remain either standing like that for hours together. Sometimes the patient shows rapid alteration between extremes of excitement and stupor. Associated features include stereotypies, mannerisms, and waxy flexibility. Waxy flexibility means you can move the patient's body, like you can move his hands or legs just like wax, and you can put it in any posture, and they will remain in that posture for long hours. Mutism is particularly common. During catatonic excitement, patients need careful supervision to prevent them from hurting themselves or others. These are common catatonic behaviors: rigidity or stupor that lasts for hours or even days, performing strange movements, staying in uncomfortable positions without shifting, erratic and extreme movement, echolalia. Echolalia means repetition of words or behaviors. Next is case 5. This is a case of residual type of subtype of schizophrenia, in which an unmarried man, 27-year-old, was brought to mental hospital because he had on several occasions become violent towards his father. For a few weeks, he had hallucinations and heard voices. The voices eventually ceased, but he then adopted a strange way of life. He would sit up all night, sleep all day, become very angry when his father tried to get him out of bed. He did not shave or wash for weeks, smoked continuously, ate very irregularly, and drank enormous quantities of tea. In the hospital, he adjusted rapidly to the new environment and was found to be generally cooperative. He showed no marked abnormalities of mental state or behavior except for his lack of concern for just about anything. See, you can see there is a lack of concern. He kept to himself as much as possible and conversed little with patients or staff. His personal hygiene has to be supervised by the nursing staff, otherwise, he would quickly become dirty and untidy. 6 years after his admission to the hospital, he is described as shiftless, careless, sullen, and unreasonable. He lies on the couch all day long. Although many efforts have been made to get the patient to accept the therapeutic work assignments, he refuses to consider any kind of regular occupation. In the summer, he wanders about the hospital grounds or lies under a tree. In the winter, he wanders through the tunnels connecting the various hospital buildings and is often seen stretched out for hours under the warm pipes that carry the steam through the tunnels. So this is a case of what you call residual type of schizophrenia. It has a very poor prognosis. There are usually no positive symptoms. As you can see, this is a 27-year-old male. For a few weeks in the beginning, he had hallucinations. For a few weeks, he had hallucinations and words and heard voices. And after that, the voices ceased. And after that, he showed a marked change in his behavior. He was he was all the time not interacting with people, remaining aloof, decreased personal hygiene. All these are negative symptoms. So the usually there will be no positive symptoms. The negative symptoms, like we already mentioned in our previous slides, affective flattering means lack of emotions, social withdrawal, diminished capacity to feel close to others, alogia means not talking to anybody, decreased speech productivity, anhedonia, all these are features of negative schizophrenia. These are the symptoms. See, affective deficits, lacking facial expression, communicative deficits, lacking in speech, avolition, you can see there's lack of motivation, just sitting like that without doing anything, lack of interest in socializing, not able to interact with others. Now we come to a case 6, which is the oneroid type. It's a very interesting type of subtype of schizophrenia, in which oneroid is actually a dream-like state. Means the patient is in a dream-like state. The oneroid schizophrenia is used for patients who are engaged in a hallucinatory experience. They live in their hallucinatory experience and they exclude themselves from the surroundings. Like they engage in their hallucinatory experience to the exclusion and the involvement in the real world. They are not in touch with the reality. Okay. So whereas in the other cases we have seen they are not away from the reality. They are all talking to people like that. Here they will be all aloof or they'll be in a dream-like state. So here there's a 20-year-old female college student had recovered from her after a 20-year female college student had recovered from her schizophrenic breakdown. She wrote the following description of her experience during the oneroid phase. This is how I remember it. The road has changed, it is twisted, and it used to be straight. Nothing is constant, all is in motion. The trees are moving, they do not remain at rest. How is it that my mother does not bump into the trees that are moving? I follow my mother. I am afraid, but I follow. I have to share my strange thoughts with someone. We are sitting on a bench. The bench seems low. It too has moved. The bench is low, I say. Yes, says my mother. This isn't how it used to be. How come there are no people around? So you can see it is all like a poem, and it is like a what you call dream-like state. There are usually lots of people, and it is Sunday, and there are no people. This is strange. All these strange questions irritate my mother, who then says she must be going soon. While I continue thinking, I am in a kind of nowhere. There are no days, no nights. Sometimes it is darker than other times. That is all. It is never quite black, just dark gray. There is no such thing as time. There is only eternity. There is no such thing as death, nor heaven and hell. There is only a timeless, hateful, spaceless worsening of things. You can never go forward. You must always regress into horrific mess. The outside was moving rather swiftly. Everything seemed topsy-turvy. Things were flying about. It was very strange. I wanted to get back to the quite very badly, but when I got back, I couldn't remember where everything was. So that is a honoroid type of schizophrenia or subtype of schizophrenia. Actually, honoroid is a state. It's a dream-like state. Okay. Then we move to the next case. That is case number 7. James was a 50-year-old man who had been in and out of hospitals, homeless shelters, jails, and mental health centers for over 20 years. He often lived on the streets. Delusions, auditory hallucinations, and paranoia, all responding minimally to medications, accompanied him constantly. Regular marijuana use exacerbated his symptoms and got him entangled with drug dealers and criminal justice system. James dressed eccentrically, wore a patch over one eye, and preached his religious beliefs in public settings, with occasional rejections, confrontations with police, and trips to the emergency room. He seemed not to care about housing, failing to stay in several nursing homes, group homes, apartments, and shelters for more than a few weeks. After a lengthy forensic hospitalization, James came to a housing trustee. So this is a case of rehabilitation. Surprised that he was offered an apartment without precondition, he readily agreed to move into his own place. This team helped him with furnishings, his landlord shopping, and learning the new neighborhood. James experienced many challenges, including disagreements with his landlord, restaurant managers, other tenants, drug dealers, and the police. But the team was available to intercede 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and helped him to resolve many difficult situations. Listening respectively to delusions, and helping with practical matters was the central strategy. For example, James needed assistance to keep other drug users from moving into his apartment. He understood that to keep the apartment which he liked, he needed to allow the team and his landlord to set limits with these acquaintances. Over time, James found delusional rationales for giving up marijuana, restricting his preaching, having a girlfriend, attending church, and taking a small dose of medication. Several team members admired his courage and integrity, and he often called on them for help. He did not return to homelessness, jail, or the hospital over several years. So this is a case of a 50-year-old man who was who had schizophrenia for a long period. It's almost for 20 years, and he had all the positive symptoms, delusions, auditory hallucinations. But then later, with proper rehabilitation facilities and participating in psychosocial interventions, he could come back to normalcy. Now, case 8 is a case of chronic schizophrenia. It is a 48-year-old man. Yes?
I'm sorry for interrupting, ma'am. If you want, I can read the case.
అయిపోయింది ఇంక రెండే ఉన్నాయి.
Okay, ma'am.
ఏం హలో
Yes.
A 48-year-old man who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia while in the army at the age of 21 years led an isolated and often frightened existence, living alone and supported by disability payments. So this is a case of a 48-year-old man, and from the age of 21 years he had a schizophrenia. Although he would confirm that he had chronic auditory hallucinations, he was never comfortable with discussing the content of these hallucinations, and a review of records showed that this was a long-term pattern for the patient. Otherwise, the patient had good rapport with his psychiatrist and was enthusiastic about the possibility of participating in a study of novel antipsychotic agent. During the informed consent procedure, the patient asked about the possibility that the new medication might decrease his chronic auditory hallucination. So here the patient has been having chronic auditory hallucinations from almost 25 or 30 years. So when it was acknowledged that any response was possible, including decreases in his hallucinations, the patient broke off the discussion abruptly and left the office. At a later visit, he reported that his most reliable pleasure in life was nightly discussions or gossip of gossip with hallucination of voices which he believed belonged to a 17th century French courtiers, and the chance that he might lose these conversations and the companionship they offered was too frightening for him to consider. So this is a case of chronic schizophrenia in which the patient has been living with these hallucinations for such a long period, and he started enjoying the companionship. Rather, when the doctor explained to him that if he takes a new drug, maybe he'll be relieved of these hallucinations, he was not willing to participate in the study. So you can understand how a chronic schizophrenic has initially in the early part of schizophrenia, patients are scared, but as the disease progresses, they start living with these hallucinations. Then this is the ninth case in which this is the example of an unpredictable suicide in a patient with schizophrenia who had been responding to psychiatric treatment. The patient had been an autistic child and did not speak until he was 7 years old. He had responded well to psychiatric treatment, and at age 13, his IQ was reported as 122, which is very, very high IQ. At age 18, he became violent toward his parents, shaved all of his hair, and made such statements as, "I like bank robbers knocking people unconscious. I think tough gangs are funny because they beat down people." While saying this, he laughed loudly. He was admitted to a mental hospital where he responded with definite improvement to pharmacotherapy and psychotherapy, and he went home regularly for weekends. He left various notes on his desk before committing suicide. Among these notes was an 8-page list giving inexcusable mistakes throughout my life. Each one was dated, for example, 1952, 2nd of November, throwing up in my friend's house on a shoebox, 1953, 17th August, accidentally wearing a watch. He then proceeded in his notes to give the causes of the mistakes. Montreal having a mountain, I have a receding hairline, my feelings of tension since 1962 is getting worse most of the time, I planned the date of my death without the slightest trace of emotion. The boy hanged himself at the age 18 in a family garage. An experienced psychiatrist who had repeatedly interviewed him noted no signs of depression only a week before. So this is a case of a young boy uh, at the age of 17. He was under treatment. He was doing well, but there is a case known as post-schizophrenic depression. Like after the patient gets treated with schizophrenia and he gains insight, till then insight is awareness about one's illness. Whereas in mostly in our mental illnesses, patient doesn't have insight into his illness, but after treatment, the patient gains insight. So here, post schizophrenia, after he was given treatment, he gained insight into the illness, and then there was a depression, post schizophrenic depression. So that could be one of the causes for his sudden suicide. Suicide is common in attempted suicide is common, and completed suicide is also there in some of the patients. Now this is the last case. Again, this is the case of paranoid schizophrenia. Why I have included many cases of paranoid schizophrenia? Because this is very common. A previously healthy 20-year-old student had been behaving in an odd way. At times he appeared angry and told his friends that he was being persecuted. At other times he was seen to be laughing to himself for no apparent reason. For several months he had seemed increasingly preoccupied with his own thoughts. His academic work had deteriorated. When interviewed, he was restless, suspicious, and exhibited odd mannerisms. He described hearing voices commenting on his actions and abusing him. He believed that the police had conspired with his university teachers to harm him, his brain, and interferes with his thoughts. He only suspected that they could also read his thoughts. So you can see here also the patient has so many suspicions. All are delusions. Then he can hear voices, and also he's also, the last line is he also suspected that they could read his thoughts. So these are all different types of delusions. This is a typical case of paranoid schizophrenia. Almost every day in our OPD we see 2 or 3 cases of paranoid schizophrenia. most common type of schizophrenia. Good if treated from the beginning itself, the prognosis will be good. Now this is the picture of Nobel laureate John Nash. As you all know, all of you must have seen this movie of Beautiful Mind. John Nash was a famous mathematician who suffered with schizophrenia in his life, and the movie is based on his life. So before I conclude, I would just like to add a few words about the treatment of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, though it is a very disabling mental illness, it is treatable. There are, we can, if we start treatment in the acute phase itself, actually there are three phases in the treatment: acute phase, continuation phase, and the maintenance phase. Acute phase is when the patient has florid symptoms, like he's brought to the hospital or to the OPD or to the doctor with florid symptoms like delusions, hallucinations, suicidal thoughts. Usually in the acute phase, hospitalization is very important. After hospitalization, sometimes we may have to restrain the patient, but currently we are not supposed to give any physical restraints. So to avoid physical restraints, injectables are started. Initially, injectable antipsychotics are started. Then after the aggression is controlled, oral antipsychotics are given, ECTs are given, and simultaneously we are observing for side effects, EPS, etc. So the acute phase lasts about 4 to 6 weeks, and it is the initial stabilization phase. After the acute phase comes the continuation phase, which lasts about 6 to 8 weeks, in which there is the acute symptoms have improved, but the purpose of the continuation phase is to maintain the response which we gained in the acute phase. We have to see that the response is well maintained, there is drug compliance, etc. Then comes the maintenance phase, in which we have to see that there is no relapse, the patient continues to take the treatment, he gains insight, and he is given proper rehabilitation, and he fits back into his job. Okay. Then there is one term known as treatment refractory schizophrenia. The drug of choice for treatment refractory schizophrenia is clozapine. Okay. To summarize, schizophrenia is a neurobiological illness affecting the functionality of the brain. It is caused due to genetic and environmental factors. It is a treatable disorder. Early interventions bring better recovery. 33% of patients with schizophrenia recover completely. 33% have relapses after initial recovery and are functional. Only 33% have a downhill course. Delay in seeking help and starting treatment adversely affects improvement. Medicines form the mainstay of treatment along with rehabilitation. Discontinuity in treatment can cause worsening of illness. Majority of persons with schizophrenia can lead normal productive lives like any other person in the society. They are not intellectually deficient or retarded. The family has a major role to play in the success of treatment of schizophrenia. Okay, thank you.